Hello and welcome everyone. I'm so pleased to welcome everyone to this exclusive webinar on new realities for quality assurance and online resources. This is going to be a reflection on INQAAHE's role within the global framework. Before we start, can I request all of you to mute your phones, please, so that to mute your microphones to avoid any echoes. I would love to thank my colleagues at INQAAHE board for giving me the opportunity to chair this webinar. Over the years, INQAAHE has emerged as a global leader in quality assurance in higher education and aims to attend and reach to in the coming years, okay? I think some of you have already heard about our INQAAHE 12th biennial forum, which was supposed to be held in Russia. Now there is going to be what happened? Okay. This is just a reminder for you about the webinar that we are going to have, and about the pre-forum workshops, the forum, and the General Assembly and Regional Network meeting. So please take note of this, and we hope that we'll all be meeting you for this very, very important forum. In this webinar, we have got these lovely guest speakers for us. And basically, the webinar focuses on how COVID-19 has resulted in a growing reliance on online resources and information technologies to support learning, research, data collection, and assessment. The shift in the methodology of delivery during the COVID crisis and the assessment and the research present new challenges in quality assurance and puts the onus on the network of quality assurance agencies, their personnel and volunteers to address quality in higher education and services to students. I'm sure many of you had to go under tremendous adjustments and trying to make sure that quality assurance is maintained during the distant learning era. This webinar represents a panel of experts in the field of accreditation and is aimed at sharing their reflection and ideas about the rigor and quality review related to inline research and publications. The webinar also reflects on how INQAAHE continues to strengthen the accountability, quality, and value of higher education quality assurance. Today, we are going to have 3 presentations from our 3 panelists. Each presenter will speak for about 15 minutes or more if they really engage the audience. At the end of the presentation, there will be a Q&A session for about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on the number of questions that we receive. I urge our presenters to remain faithful to the time allocated to them. I also urge our participants to post their questions and comments in the chat box and send Twitter feed using the INQAAHE webinar. Our first speakers, okay, is going to be Natasha, who is very, very interesting person, particularly in the area of library services. Natasha is the Director of Library Services and Marketing at the Library and Information Resources Network, Incorporated. Her background, what's happening to my screen? Yeah, her background, an LMS administration, academic courses and training creation, knowledge management and experience in distance education, hybrid and blended learning delivery models, allows Natasha to stay updated in higher education platforms, technologies. Natasha brings to us years of experience as a library director in the higher education academic sector. Now, without any further ado, I'm pleased to invite Natasha for our first presentation.
Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and share my screen just a moment. Okay, everyone, I just wanted to make sure that everybody can see my screen just fine. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me in INQAAHE. My name is Natasha Hogue, and I am the Director of Library Services and Marketing with LIRT. Our headquarters are located in the United States, in Florida. I am currently located in Ohio. And as Dr. Halmade said, that LEARN stands for the Library and Information Resources Network. We are a nonprofit library consortium that provides library services in the higher education institution sector. So regardless of whether an institution has robust online course offerings with an excellent collection of online resources and services in place, or offers few to no online courses or services, the sudden demand for mass migration of courses and operations to the online environment has been challenging. We are here because we all know that providing faculty and students with research, scholarship, and information support is vital, and even more so in the online hybrid or blended delivery model environment. So first, I want to take a look at what we've had to deal with in the response of an emergency. And unfortunately, institutions had to do this with little no plan involved. And so now this leads us to looking at the aftermath of being thrown into an emergency situation to create an optimal remote space for our learners and faculty as countries start opening back up. Let's focus on the optimal experience, since online research and information seeking is at peak, and how to be ready for it. Libraries are an academic service, and we want to make sure that we're partnering with curriculum committees and/or faculty and academic departments, establishing information literacy programs with clear learning outcomes and assessment strategies, and analyzing library collections against rigorous criteria. With the landscape of online platforms changing so fast these days, technologies need to be put in place to ensure access of reliable and vetted materials and to be attainable. Libraries and library technology can do just this to help us become even more prepared as countries start looking back into opening back up and what that will look like for their schools. There are principal indicators that I want to take a look at that measure eventual expectations to reach impact in academic services. These indicators are drawn from the ACRL, which is the Association of College and Research Libraries. The ACRL has standards in place for libraries and education. The core of the standards is a section titled Principles and Performance Indicators. The 9 principles and the related performance indicators are intended to be expectations or standards. And this applies to all types of academic libraries. We can focus more on the outcomes of the following principles, especially with 1, the educational role, where libraries partner in the education mission of the institution to develop and support information literate learners. 2, the discovery, where libraries enable users to discover information in all formats through effective use of technology and organization of knowledge. 3, collections, where libraries provide access to collections sufficient in quality, depth, diversity, format, and currency. 4, the space, where libraries are considered the intellectual commons, where users interact with ideas and in physical and or virtual environments to expand learning and facilitate the creation of new knowledge. And that's what a library mission and goal generally falls into those categories. And 5, we need management, administration, and leadership to buy in, where library leaders engage in internal and campus decision-making to inform resource allocation, to meet libraries' mission effectively and efficiently. So overall, the quality of library research collections and the evaluation of publications play a large role in these principles by creating impactful outcomes with student and faculty success. We must really focus on these principal indicators to eventually create impact with our learners. Now, keeping in mind the ACRL principal indicators, we need to ask ourselves these questions when evaluating our current library operations. Here are some examples of guidelines to follow to ensure quality assurance in libraries. Libraries are important in assisting with student retention by focusing on academic support through curriculum support and learning the research skills that will educate users in the evaluation of information. Also, critical thinking, credibility of information, skills, and academic credibility in one's work, and thus leading to learning credibility and critical thinking in one's career. Libraries also help close the digital divide. Again, keeping in mind the principal indicators from ACRL and looking at quality assurance guidelines, we also can create an alignment to objectives of what we want learners to learn. We have to create an alignment between quality assurance guidelines and how they go back to course and program learning outcomes. So standards for professional programs and institutional degree level expectations, or DLEs, can be set out in 6 broad category examples according to a collection of samples I gathered from various institutions. Libraries must contain a quality collection of library resources to meet all users' needs and have partnership with faculty in the curriculum building process in order to make a large impact. Additionally, we cannot do any of this well without critical thinking and information literacy skills. The goals you see on the screen are attainable with the help of a quality library and library staff. So what to examine with the content? We have a breadth and depth of resources available, accessibility features in the databases. We need something that contains peer-reviewed, has full text content, and is vetted and created by subject matter experts. Digital databases give us the opportunity to access guaranteed, vetted research materials anytime from anywhere, as long as one has an internet connection. And with the help of librarians, degree level expectations like good research, critical thinking skills, some digital skills, how to be credible, and information literacy skills are developed in this process. Now, what to examine with the technology? One thing to really talk about is mobile responsive platforms, which is one area that we want to ensure our students and faculty have access to. It is vital that students can access content via multiple touch points. Another important factor is the ability to personalize one's research amongst many facets, as you can see here on the screen. Additionally, to search all of the library content across providers or vendors, one needs a system that allows for cross-vendor search. There is something that we have created called Learn Search that does that. So how are you connecting students to library content? An online library extends the reach of your programs to students who live too far away from a campus to attend traditional courses or classes, or whom are in different programs or course delivery models, like we've touched base on. So it's vital to connect the library to systems. Has anyone heard of LTI? I want you to think about this, LTI. LTI stands for interoperability. It's a learning tools interoperability. And this is an excellent way to connect students, as LTI allows the connection of the library resources directly into the learning management system, right into the modules and/or curriculum. It reduces friction for students, provides resources at point of need for both faculty and students, and allows for cost savings by utilizing or leveraging existing systems like a student information system, a learning management system, or a library system, etc., or different types of systems. So that allows for that connection, that deep leaking, so to speak, of resources directly into that system. And one thing that we've done here at Learn is help a large percentage of our members leverage LTI, as we have the only library proxy platform certified as LTI compliant today on the market. And this really helps bridge some barriers that may come into play with access issues to proper research content. So as you can see here, there are 4 different major avenues in which linking or signing on can occur. The first one is you can connect through authentication with students through single sign-on or SSO. And this allows students to bypass, and faculty to bypass an additional username or password and connect their Gmail account, for example, and bypass the username and password wall to the library website or portal. This allows for one username and password across the board. So this is one way that students might be logging in, say, to the library. Another example is through LTI, which we just talked about, which is allowing that connection directly to the library resources into the LMS, the learning management system, or the student information system, right into the LMS modules or curriculum, which is an excellent way to connect students. 3, or you have a campus IP range, which is the most simplistic way, but only works when on campus or on site. So that doesn't do too much good as students are, going into a blended or hybrid or online different model. And lastly, there is a general username and password method, which students have to remember or have access to the username and password. And as you guys know, we have to remember a lot of usernames and passwords. So you can probably tell which one is our favorite. It's LTI at this time. So another thing is, as we are connecting content, connecting your school to the resources. As you can see here, access is very important as we look into the future. Connecting one school to the resources via solution like LTI helps bring the content right at the point of need, right into the course. This is something to keep in mind as we re-examine our plan for optimization. And this is once again to remove barriers and to assist with access and the digital divide. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and have a poll here, and we want to ask yourself, how are you connecting your students to library content? SSO, single sign-on, LTI, campus IP range, or username and password? You know, and do you have an LMS to connect? Or how are you incorporating library content to the curriculum? So start thinking about these things while you're answering this poll. Is it through technology? Is it physically? Do you have a first-year course that introduces the library? Do you have a library course at all in the LMS? Critical thinking courses, information literacy courses, anything. And we still have people answering this poll. This is wonderful. Okay, so if we can go back to the other poll here, thank you so much. Oh, it looks like we might have to redo the poll. There we go. Here we are. So far, it looks like the biggest one is username and password. And then in second place, we're getting it up to LTI, which I'm very excited to see. Wonderful. So as you guys can see here, these are some, this poll helps everyone see what other campuses are doing or not doing. And this allows them to make a professional a decision on how we want to access our library tools and resources for our students and faculty. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, and we can end the poll there. All right, so libraries play a large role with their contribution. It goes beyond research assistance. Librarians help with the fine-tuning process, with the institution's culture, and the values, principles, and mission. You have to build the foundation, and here at Learn, this is what we do with our librarian services. And I'm not sure if you can see my screen. I don't know if the poll's still in the way. However, basically what we're talking about here is building the foundation. And the library operations consist not only of, once again, research support, but the student and faculty training, making sure you're working with your faculty and students to get what they need for their courses, helping them get what they need for their own information literacy and critical thinking skills, and faculty's own professional development. Library operations have to support from the top to be made a priority. It flows from the top down. And the library must be visible and implemented into the expectations and goals to be optimal. And that's all I have for today. And I want to thank INQAAHE again. And I will go ahead and pass this on to Dr. Ho. Thank you.
Hi. So should I continue, or the chairs would say something?
Yes. Thank you very much, Natasha, for sharing your insightful thought with us. I'm sure there will be plenty of questions from the participants. So I would urge you to post your questions on our chat box, and we'll deal with them right at the end of our three presenters. Our second presenter is Dr. Angela Ho. She is a professor of higher education at the at the National
Chengchi.
Chengchi University, Taiwan, in Taipei, I presume, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Angela is also a member of the INQAAHE board, and she serves as the Executive Director of Higher Education, Evaluation and Accreditation Council of Taiwan since 2016. She specializes in higher education policy, quality management, internationalization, quality assurance of cross-border higher education. She has been involved in quality assurance practices and international research for more than 15 years. Today, Angela is going to present the challenges faced by higher education institutions due to COVID-19 and how INQAAHE extended support to QA agencies and higher educational institutions to manage the crisis. I look forward to hear you, Angela. Thank you.
Okay.
Please go
Thank
ahead.
you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair's introductions. And this is Angela Ho, as the Chair mentioned, I'm from Taiwan, Taipei. Now, currently, I'm the Executive Director of the Taiwan's Higher Education's Quality Assurance Agency. And today, I think I would try to share you, this is some key points I would like to present today. First of all, I would like to share you a little bit my observations. What exactly is the impact of the COVID-19 on higher ed, particularly in the Glonacal system, and then crisis management in higher ed, and what kind of the support actually has been addressed by international quality assurance network, particular the INQAAHE. And then also recently INQAAHE had done some survey. I think I will share you how exactly is that the responses from our QA agency. And at the end, I think I will share, we'll spend a few minutes to share about the Taiwan case with you. So in the COVID-19, since has been outbreak in the earlier, I think it's the January, February, actually has brought a lot of impact on higher ed. But however, the higher education has been developed, gone through a lot of changes. Not just by COVID-19 actually, okay, so due to the globalization, that of the changes has been undergone, okay, through the process, and particularly you could see over the years, the massifications, marketizations, or even the international competitions. I mean, those kind of the phenomena indeed impact the whole higher education landscape. Okay, and then so under this kind of the system, sometimes we may say that the Glonacal system, the whole higher education system has been affected by global force, and then also in certain way they will be driven by the national policy. But however, the local institutions still have to respond to any changes, no matter from the national policy or even from the global force. And particularly if you see that the COVID-19, this crisis immediately actually force the higher education, make some changes. And most important thing is you see how the government, that the government have the policy to the university, and then most of the university probably they have to close the campuses, and then they have to make the very immediate reactions to this kind of the policy made by the government. So also due to this global lockdown, the campuses cannot be open. So it means that the university with the governments, they have to think about the relationship with the global markets, because the international education has been affected by this crisis very, very seriously. And then also, most important thing, it seems the situation this crisis, how much their properties will affect the quality of the higher education, and then how would the quality of the institution should be measured in most of the countries. So based on this, currently, though not many literature is talking about the impacts, but however, still a lot of the scholars, they tries to share their observations, the impacts on COVID-19's impacts on higher ed. Mainly, they could be including these three dimensions. There's one of dimension is the internationalization. So many researchers and even the scholars, they observe that that will be the big clients in international student mobility after, or probably after, after the COVID-19. And then the student preference for the study abroad probably will change, maybe from global scales to the regional scale. And then also some observations or even prediction is maybe, okay, this hot hit in global mobility, internationalization, higher education probably will require at least 5 years for recovery. So for the internationalization of the higher ed, okay, over the years seems that it has one of the very important dimensions for university to present, okay, the academic accountability. I think that ones will be affected very, very seriously. And another one is about equality, I think related to our work. And because most of the face-to-face courses, discourses that have been moved to online, so a lot of the activities probably have to also be changed, such as the lab work, internships, or those kind of things. I mean, that will let us to think how we're going to measure the student learning and then really assess their performance. And another one, I think, is the inequality. Also, many scholars, they worry about probably these issues will become more and more worse, because for country or some institutions, okay, they might not ready for this online mode teaching or even the learning. So the inequality, okay, the issues, okay, is really worthwhile for observation, how what happens in the future. And based on this, let's see. So it seems this is the crisis, not just for this crisis. It means the health crisis did have the great impact on higher ed. So the university, of course, they have to respond to this crisis as soon as possible. So some, the literature will even report identify what exactly the crisis management would be. But most important thing is, okay, through this kind of a process, and then how comes the organizations could really engage a variety of the stakeholders in order to solve these issues, and then also could reduce the negative impact, and then also could continue the organization's operations. And the most important thing is, okay, the whole organization or the whole system will recover very, very soon after this incident. So, and also, in general, okay, some literatures may try to develop or categorize those kinds of the crisis into the several types. But you could see, okay, the health crisis this times, maybe most of the country will belong to the first types, the widespread disruptions to normal operations for extended period. Okay, so we may expect that it might end, but we don't know when it's going to end. But okay, our normal operations has been disrupted, and then we have to make some changes as soon as possible in order to respond to, okay, those, okay, impact, okay, on our organization or even on the whole system. So mainly you could see many challenges and then changes, okay, for quality assurance or even the measurements. You could see that has been occur. For example, because most of the courses or even the learning has been moved online, so you could see that for the quality assurance agency, when they are undertaking the external reviews, few things probably have to take into considerations. For example, they probably have to think about to extend the validities of the accreditations, or even have to postpone or even cancel the on-site visit, etc., and focus on the text review instead of the going visit that university, because all the campuses has been closed, or even they have to live certain kind of requirements regarding the online education. So you could see the quality assurance agency or other accreditation bodies probably when you thinking about the measurements for the quality under this crisis, under this particular situations, probably we have to think about how that the higher education nowadays they have the capability to deal with this kind of the risk, particular some university, maybe due to the COVID-19, the research funding has been decreasing, and then students, from overseas, the number has been declined as well. So you have to think about, probably as a quality assurance agency, we may think about how would those university, they deal with those kind of crises, and then also, to come up with some good solutions for this risk. And then also, most important thing is, on this particular moment, the quality assurance, probably you have to think about to evaluate the university if they could provide sufficient online resources. I think like a first speaker mentioned about nowadays, the online resources becomes more and more important, and also the support for what I want to say, the unprepared teachers. It's not all the teachers actually are ready for this, particular situations, and then how you could prepare them, to move from face-to-face discourse to the online, teaching. So those also need to be, assessed, what particular for the students under this kind of occasions. So based on this context, and then under this crisis, COVID-19 crisis, the international quality assurance networks, actually not including the INQAAHE or INQAAHE, EPIQ, and HEI, etc., they all try to support the quality assurance agency as well as the higher educations, and by doing various things. And one of the things is they publish some statements or even some documents in order to share the support, and then as well as to share the measures, and then some guidelines for the QA agency that could apply in this situation. So when you look at the INQAAHE, actually in April, we publish not just affirmative support information for the support for QA, and also we publish so-called principles for crisis management in quality assurance. I think these statements are very useful. You all could download those from our website. They mention about under this crisis, and how would the university, how would the quality assurance agency, when you are undertaking the reviews or all the activity, how you're going to adhere to the integrity. This is one very important issues. And then also you have to think about how to really maintain the student learning experiences and engagement. That is one thing I think also, one of our responsibility, quality assurance agency's responsibility, is to make really understand how that the university could respond to these issues. And then also the equity and the access issues, also very important. How would that the university under this kind of the situation still could provide the equal access for all the students and the teachers for teaching and as well as for learning. And then also, how they could have the very good relationship with the institutions, and then to share the good practices with them, communications, and as well as how they learn, to adapt themselves to the unforeseen circumstances. I think those crisis management also quite useful, and then they could be applies to the quality assurance agency as well as the higher education institution in a different context. So all in all, you could see, under the COVID-19, a lot of challenges and changes that impact occur among the QA agency as well as the higher education institutions. So in general, you could see there will be the 6 dimensions probably has been should be taken into considerations, no matter it's the challenges or even some changes is supposed to made, no matter for the quality assurance as well as for the institutions. Like the methodology, means what the reviews process, the reviews standards, or the reviews, that the way, with the methodologies. Probably we think about, should we have certain kinds of the modifications, and then also the accreditation, the status, the validity, and the integrity that I mentioned before, and the equity also. How would that QA agency, so you could provide the different standards for the online degrees, but for the university in certain way, how you could provide the equal access and the resources for the different groups of the students, as particular for those under privileged groups of the students. Finance, I think, is also another issue that will impact they now probably will impact the university as well as the quality assurance agency, and then how the partnerships between the QA and then the university could be strengthened, in this kind of the crisis. I think those things probably we have to think it very seriously and then to respond that as soon as possible. So in order to realize that exactly is what happened, and then the actions and responses for the Q agency as well as for the higher educations, and then INQAAHE in April and May, actually we conduct a survey in order to find some solutions and then how kind of support our members really need. So this survey actually has been divided into the 4 sections, and then the 10 main questions. And we try to focus on like the impact of governance of the QA agency and the responses taken by the QA agency, and then what kind of support has been done to the higher education system or even the universities. And then the very last one is we really want to know what it thinks that the INQAAHE could do, or what kind of support you think are very sufficient and very necessary for our members. So we totally received 41 responses, and for the 28 countries. And so this is some the key points of the result I would like to share with you. You could see according to that the responses and then respondents from our members, 74% of our respondents actually say that their operations has been running remotely. It means that more than 70% of the QA agency, the staff, they cannot go to the office. Probably they have to work at home. And then the 3 top challenges for the QA agency, under this kind of situation, because they work at home, the things they don't think are very efficient. For example, the thing, because working at home, communication with the co-workers and with the higher educations or even other stakeholders is not that easy. And then also you worry about the work performance and efficiencies probably cannot really reach their expectations. And the IT challenges is also one of them, because some of the agency mentioned about they do not have very sufficient the infrastructures or softwares to handle all kind of things at home. And then under the COVID-19, what kind of challenges for the Q agency exactly the things they have? The things, many of them, they say already cancel or even postpone the face-to-face activity, particularly on-site visit, and then could not participate in international the networks activity. I think that definitely, this is very serious problems. And then also the limited cooperations between the agency to agency across the borders also has been suspended. And 50% of them also say that they may have some financial problems they faced. And then when it comes to what roles that the INQAAHE could really support, then they see, the highest rating is the free webinars. So this is what we are doing today. And it's most of members say that, this is very important for them, from the support of the INQAAHE. And the next one is the virtual reviews training. They think that if the INQAAHE to provide this kind of workshop, the trainings for the members, I think they think is very, very useful. And the next one is they hope that they put some training courses. So, research and etc. I think so based on this, the result, and then also the needs and demands from our members. Actually, the INQAAHE tries to provide those kind of the services and then the support for our members. And finally, I was still want to spend a few times and then a few minutes to talking about the Taiwan's case. As I mentioned, that the Taiwan so far, the situation is probably not under the COVID-19. We still control quite well, and up to present, there are only 451 confirmed cases with the death tolls of the 7. So we could say that maybe it's one of the safest places around the whole world. And then the Taiwan, though so far we have 23 million populations, we have more than 150 institutions and more than 1 million students. And the HEIs, that's why now I'm working for, is the National Quality Assurance Agency. So far, we have been operating for more than 15 years. And then as soon as that after the outbreaks of the COVID-19, that the government actually, we immediately developed the response teams, and then to realize the current the real situations. So I think our government actually take a very quick actions to these issues. And then the Minister of Health, Wealth, and Welfare immediately was appointed by the government to organize and coordinate all things, and particularly the different resources across the different sectors. But I think most important thing is I want to share you how exactly is that that the higher education's response to that in Taiwan. So mainly there will be the 3 stages before the university or the campuses begins. That the university, the government's already published a lot of the guidelines and then also passed the regulations in order to that the university realize how they could do, what they should do, after the university open. So you could see the first stage is what I call the communication earlier development. That is started from the late January, and then until the mid-March, because between that that the school hasn't started, and then the governments, they may publish the policy and the regulations, and then to develop the so-called standard process for the confirmed cases. As soon as there's a cases confirmed on the campuses, and then what they're supposed to do, and then also that the university know all details from the handbooks of the prevention and controls of infectious diseases. And then when the school already opened, after the mid-March, because still Taiwan, I think we probably is also one of the nations, students could still go to school. So this is why my son every day asks me when, our campuses will close. I said, no, Taiwan is safe. You still have to go to school. So now our students still go to school, but however, the one thing is the university has been encouraged that if possible, particularly for the big classes, that is not that safe to that the student all together in the classroom. So they're still encouraged to have the online learning. So most important thing is how you're going to assure the quality of the online learning. So the government also published a lot of the guidelines, and then what that the university is supposed to do if that classes that has moved from face-to-face to the online, such as how you're going to assure the student attendance, how you're going to assess the students' learning, etc. And then most important thing is the government emphasized, though even the classes probably should be suspended, but however the learning shouldn't be suspended. And then also the most important thing is the government tries to organize, tries to integrate all the online resources from the private and also the public sectors. And so for those students, probably for some issue, if the university have the confirmed cases and then cannot go to the campuses, and then they still could continue to learn. So the governments, they provide more than 2,000 open courses from the different platforms, and they are all open to all the students as well as the teachers. And then when I move to the control and management over the foreign student, I think probably we all face the same problems. Foreign students, they cannot go back and return to the campuses. But for those who cannot return, and then the government also, the Taiwan's government also would like the own university to develop so-called easy projects for COVID-19 prevention. It means that the students, though you cannot return home, you cannot return back to Taiwan to study, but the university still have to provide the sufficient resources online, learning online, resources for all the students, abroad. So that is also has been prepared by all the university, also the required. But luckily, by the end of the May, now the government already have the open policy. So far, the 11 low-risk neighboring countries now they has been allowed back to Taiwan to continue their study. Okay. Now for the HEIs, that's like, because I think we're also quite lucky. We still could go to office as usual, and then the office could run normally. And then, but however, though, we are not affected very seriously. But we formed the task force for crisis management, and in order to handle any unexpected situations. So up to the end of the June, 130 programs, 8 universities, they still on the schedules to be reviewed by us, and we also pay the on-site visits as well. But however, we try to have more flexible approach when we conduct the on-site visits, such as we also have the students, we may not have the face-to-face interview, the meetings, we may have the online, we could have the virtual interview meeting, and etc. And in order to protect the student, also the reviewer's safety. And so far, we're still thinking it's very important now to develop a new approach for the online delivery, and then how exactly we could apply the IT, the software and the system into the traditional review mode. So finally, I mean, through the whole process, we still want to ask ourselves, how if the campus closures continues, how would the quality of education will be sustained? Though a lot of the adaptations probably have to be done, and then how we could really have the good review process and standards for the students if they only could stay at home, and then they could not really engage the classes, those kind of things. I think those are issues should be taken into the considerations. And then should we have to think about the new framework in the QA, and our new roles, after the COVID-19. I think is also very, very important. And then the roles, of course, the QA agency, or even and then the international network, in addition to being a quality regulator, how we could know the needs of the university, and then to work with them as a partner that I mentioned. But now the problem is most of the QA agencies so far are lacking experiences assessing the online delivery. I think that is probably the issues. So how are we going to develop this kind of capacity, and then to have the trust with the university, and then work with them? I think is also a very important issue for us to think about, and also to come up with the good solution. So finally, I think that as the CHEIs president mentioned about, if the COVID-19 pandemic, has told us something, this is that the higher education accreditation has been challenged to change. So change, I think, is the issues, definitely. So no matter how successful, as we've done in the past, but now is a time for to think about the new form, the new mode, or even the new systems for the quality assurance. And then also Ukraine, QA quality assurance director also mentioned about, also we should learn from this crisis for the QA agency. In this kind of emergency, we could develop ability to combine all kinds of the efforts, and also to demonstrate our high levels of professionalism and flexibility. The thing is also very valuable. And finally, I think what I used in INQAAHE, the very strong the statement to share with everybody is, I think that at this moment, at this particular moment at the crisis, probably the roles of the enhanced partnerships and the share our good practices, they can be never overestimated. They're still very, very important. And then we could, through our cooperations and then learning with each other, we could formulate the very good policy and responses to this unexpected and unprecedented crisis. So thank you for your attention. This is my presentation.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Angela. Thank you. You definitely brought so many issues into the table, and I'm sure this will be an exciting, that will bring exciting questions from from the audience. For the final presentation, Dr. Marty will be joining us. Dr. Marty is a professor in the Department of Business Management and Product Development at the University of Girona. He studies industrial engineering and he studied industrial engineering, and he holds a doctorate degree in industrial engineering. He is currently the co-director of research group in a product, process, and a production at the University of Grona. The university is devoted to the design of a new planning and management of production system, as well as a quality management. Marty is here to share with us the action taken by the Agency for Quality Assurance in the Catalonia University system, AAQ Catalonia, to address the exceptional circumstances that resulted due to COVID-19. Let us all welcome Dr. Marty. Please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Naji. Okay. Thank you very much to INQAAHE for inviting me today to be here. My presentation links very much with the one from previous one from Angela, because what we like to explain is which is our strategy for action in my agency for adapting to the problems that we have with COVID-19. So in fact, it's a case study that I hope that we can get some experience useful for any one of you. AAQ Catalonia, just a brief presentation, is an agency that's in Catalonia, it's in Europe. It's Barcelona, in fact. We have 12 universities, 7 million people, and we're around 250 students, 1,050 students. We have 3 objectives very quickly. The first one is the evaluation of programs, bachelor's, master's, PhD. Usually we used to evaluate accreditation around 500 programs every year, more or less. Plus we have a second objective is the evaluation of staff. This is a very unusual field in the world, but we have to evaluate one by one the professors that teach at the universities in Catalonia. So we used to evaluate around 3,000 every year. And then we have the third motto of our agency is knowledge generation. So we are managing a lot of surveys, for instance, surveys about employment, surveys about satisfaction, and so on. We are registered in agencies in Europe, and we are a member of INQAAHE, and we are also aligned with GGP's aligned agency from INQAAHE. So I will just talk a little about what's happened in Spain and what happened to our agency for the evaluation of these programs. So we are planning to evaluate, as I told you, around 500 programs, and the COVID appears. As well, I don't know if you know, but in Spain, it has been one of the countries with more impact of the COVID. I cannot remember how many people die, but it's crazy. And again, now these days, this is coming again. So it looks like we decreased the numbers of infected, but now it's starting to increase again. So we are in a very dangerous situation right now. The government of Spain declares on the 14th of March the suspension of everything, so the total lockdown of administrative deadlines and everything, and that's stayed during 79 days until the 22nd of May. So we spent around 80 days with the country totally locked down. However, in our agency, in this state of emergency, we have a contingency plan, and we work with the universities to go together to be aligned. In fact, we are working together with all the universities. There are 12 universities, and I used to meet with the vice rectors, with the rectors, almost every week, or maybe twice a week during all this, no, every second week during all this period. So we have a contingency plan. First of all, we have to, the more important one is to protect the health of the AAQ staff. We have additional problems here because just at this moment, we are in a moment where moving our premises, we're changing the building. So we have a lot of issues there. But we would like to continue to operate at 100%. And we tell you that everybody's working from home. And I'm not sure the 100%, but I think that we work 99%. We try to do exactly what we were doing before. And at the same time, we have to comply with instructions used by the government. By the higher education systems, we like to support them, to help them, and I think that we already did it, and to safeguarding the students' rights that have to right to finish their programs. What the more important part of our strategy, I think, is this slide, when there is two periods, what we said, state of emergency and exceptional period. The state of emergency, there's 3 months that we have been changing a lot of things, and with a lot of changes, a lot of new rules from the government, whatever. But now, from June from this year, 2020, we have defined the next year, all the year exceptional period. So we have defined the changes on the rules, changes on the guidelines, changes on the standards, on the dimensions that we will maintain for all the whole year. It doesn't matter what's happened during the next year, because we realize that we need to plan something, that we cannot stay every month changing the rules, every month changing. Now COVID is going up, so be hard. Now the COVID is going down. So in order to avoid any kind of misunderstanding, we try to plan all the next year as an exceptional period, whatever it happens. Basically, we develop a lot of documents that you can find on the website, but we try basically we have four steps. First of all, the desk review procedures we maintain as it was, so continuing normal. The time limits that we have in our procedure, we defer all the limits for the submission and resolution during 79 years more. All the meetings, we have changed all the meetings to online, like the majority, well, I think that all the companies in the world. And then we define remote procedures for the adaptations of the procedures that can be undertaken remotely, trying to safeguard the quality of the education and the rights of the students. We have some challenge, of course, is this management of uncertainty, and that we try to solve with this definition of the next year, all next year as an exceptional period. We like to preserve the students' rights. This is our one of the main motto. We have some concerns about the higher education institution, especially about the teaching and learning process. I will talk about that later on. At the same time, we like to mitigate the impact of our reviews. Keep in mind that, for instance, during the month of June, we have around 50 or 60 reviews if we take. So we don't want to impact higher on the institutions, considering that there is an overload of the teaching staff. All the staff, they are changing their rules, they're changing their classrooms, they're changing everything, and we don't want to be a problem. We will be part of the solution, not of the problem. So we have two principles. The two principles of our documents is that first of all, this is the principle worldwide, is the higher education institution are primarily the responsible for the quality of their offer. But the second one is whatever is the education that we are giving, whatever are the circumstances, whatever happens, we have to ensure the acquisition of the learning outcomes, they are the same that it was previous, or they are quite similar, let's say. This is, well, as you could imagine, it's quite easy in some programs, and it's very difficult in other programs, like programs about teaching or programs about health, but we try to deal with that. Then basically what we have been working is the adaptations of our standards. So we have different standards, but the more important one is the one for accreditation. We have also accreditation for online programs, and this is previously to COVID, and now we are adding adaptations to these standards, but just for this period, let's say. So in this period, what I mean is that, for instance, if the standards say A during this period, that is going to be 1 year, we can say B or A and B. But later on, we'll come back to A when we have a situation, a normal situation. So the more important ones who have changed is the one about access to the programs. There are many programs that it's mandatory to have an interview, especially in programs about health. So masters I'm talking about. So we are changing that, and we allow the universities to have interviews online or other systems that they allow the university to be equitative. This is very important from the point of view of the students. Also, we have changes about the teaching methodology and the evaluation. We have defined in another document which kind of teaching methodologies are allowed and which kind of evaluation. For example, in the case of health services, there is some indicators when you cannot do the practices and all the hospitals, they are full. You are allowed to get simulation or other kinds of ways to try to get the same learning objectives for the students. We have changed the standards about public information. All the universities in Catalonia and all the programs and all the subjects has to get a clear information of what's happened, how it's going to be the methodology, which is going to be the evaluation, and additionally, what is going to be the evaluation if there is a new lockdown in Spain that it's not impossible, let's say. Then we have changes the standards about resources and student support. Also about external practices. For instance, we allow to have external practices or practices by internet and so on. And the rules for the final project, even in the degrees or in the master, at least in Spain, it's very important. Then another change that we introduced is how to communicate the adaptations to the agency for the future review procedures. We are evaluating all the programs in Catalonia. In our case, it's program by program. So we have to evaluate 1,500 programs, more or less. So, and we don't want that all these programs, they are communicating thousands of information to us. So we have managed one way, according to the law, to communicate what are the changes and how we will evaluate these changes during the future process of accreditation. Then we have defined on-site visits. On-site visits, that mean online visits. This is just available for centers that had just been visited before with other similar programs. I'm talking about one center that has one program about one master, and we were evaluating another master similar in the same premises. Then we can do it, the on-site visit. Instead of having work session of a full day, we split the sessions on half day, basically because if not, everybody is very tired to be thousands of hours in front of the computer. We have changed the participants in the interviews. We have changed, in fact, the agenda. We like that all the people that's on the interview are able to see it on the screen. So we're limited to 10 people maximum. Peers should distribute their direct participation during the interviews. Not all the peers needs to be in all the interviews. We have a different role in this case. We break. We have 15 minutes breaks between each session, and we doesn't allow to record. Basically, because in the regular site visits there is no possible to record, and we like to do it on the same way. Which is the conclusions that we have from our point of view, at least, and then I will talk a little about the point of view from the universities. We try to do it very fast. So in fact, I think that 15 days after the lockdown, we already have maybe 3 weeks. We have the first visit online. We have right now many visitors online. All of them, they are online. We have a very effective communication with higher education institutions, well, because we have only 12 universities. And as I told you before, I have to talk with the vice rectors, I think every week with all of them. We design an effective review procedures. I think that process, I'm very happy with it. I think it's right. And we work a lot. This is part of our main work to replan the visits with the higher education institutions. We used to work with the planning from one and a half year before. So 1.5 years before, we know all the visits that we'll plan for next year. So after that, we have to change a lot and have to replan, we have to rescheduling. And I think that we do it very fast. Well, 1 month we stay to work on that because there is a lot of constraints, but I think that 1 month is not bad. And in case that there are new premises that we have never visited before, we have to organize new visits. But these visits, they are just for analyzing the labs, analyzing the class and so on, but not for the audience. So we're not including that the audience, the process of accreditation that has been did before online. We have some lessons learned. I think that it's good that we have elaborated very clear instructions from online site visits. I think that maybe there are 5 pages, only 5 pages. They're on our website if somebody's interested. They are very simple and very clear. It's true that we have to train the experts because it's quite different, the on-site visit than the online visits. The HEI demands more assistance because we have been supporting them. And I think that now it's done. Now they already know how is the process going. I think that we have some problems, technical problems in the first visit, but now it's done. So we just choose a system that it's robust, and we are working, and there's no problem at all now with the IT system. We started with a very easy site visits. It's a program that it was already accredited before, so it's very easy. Everybody knows that it's going to be, well, if there is no surprises, but everybody expects that it's going to be very easy. Sometimes there are evidences that we cannot recollect because they are not on the website, they are not on the IT systems. Then they have to send it by email later on. So we are organizing the audiences, and 1 month later or some days later, they are sending the email with all the information. And as I told you before, the agenda should be adapted. This is our point of view, but I would like also to finish just with the point of view from the universities. To tell you the truth, at the beginning, the universities were very, very skeptical. Well, I just write a little bit skeptical, but it's not true. It's very, very skeptical. It was quite difficult because when I was trying to phone all the vice rectors to try to convince to do it online, all of them, they told me no. We will expect until the end of the process, maybe in 6 months, and we'll start again. We don't want to do it online. So it was very difficult for us to convince them. But I have to say that after the first visit, now it's just the opposite. Many the vice directors told me, please do all of them online and forever. I said, no, forever not. This is not possible because once the situation is finished, we'll come back to the visit, to the regular visit. Why they want it all online? Because they think, and I also think that the visit goes more directly to the important things. So we avoid this, all the, let's say, all the introduction, everything that's around the visit, that's not part of the analysis sometimes. It's, and they think, well, in 5 hours you go deeper and you analyze better the institution. This is maybe it's true, but it's also true that the online visits, they have other problems. In fact, as a summary, I think that during this year, for the rest of the year, will be some kind of blended agency. And I really hope that we can come back to the normality as soon as possible. Although I'm not very pessimistic in Catalonia, but we will see. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Marty. Thank you for sharing the experience of EQU with us. And I think the whole webinar so far has really incited a lot of interest. I can see there are so many comments they are coming and rolling for us. We have about 16 questions, and I think we can address all of them in this time. So if you don't mind, I will start with, I will read the question, or at least read part of it, and I will ask one of the panelists to answer it. If any of the other panelists want to add any comments, please do so. But we have 16 questions, and we only got about 15-20 minutes left. So let's make sure that we don't expand too much. So my first question is from Gino, who asks, are free online libraries or links to readings good enough for quality? Natasha?
So we're talking about open access here for free online libraries or links. And open access is improving the quality of free online resources, but there are still significant journals and other content that are key to certain areas of study that require licensing. So it really just depends on the quality. And obviously we really enjoy the peer-reviewed content as well.
Yeah. I think I have the second question is also for you, Natasha, which says literacy courses are great, but usually they are optional, okay, not part of the curriculum. How do you get students to use them?
Putting it into the courses. And that's where we focus on that LTI piece. So if you have a learning management system, putting the links to the books or the electronic books or the electronic journals or publications right into the readings of those modules. And mentioning and talking to them in class. Using the resources have to be driven by the instructor. If the instructor requires or strongly encourages it, the students usually will comply.
Right. So again, for you, Natasha, so this is Mr. Nasser Muhammad, who asked, and this time with COVID, how to manage libraries which are non-digital resources?
That's a really good question. So if we're not going to be on site, now obviously there are certain initiatives being made for physical holdings to be available digitally during the pandemic. For example, the Internet Archive's Emergency Lending Library. And also you can work with publishers so you can gain access to digital copies of your physical holdings that are really important and that would actually you would need. So you would have to do an evaluation of your current physical collection to see, you know, really what do we need, and to go through that collection and pick out the things that you feel like you want to see digitally.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, does anybody want to comment on this at all, or what about you, Marty? How is the experience with the non-digital libraries?
Well, non-digital libraries.
Yes. How do you quality assure them at this time?
Well, in our case, it's a little different because the libraries has been already accredited for external agency, let's say, and we just accept their accreditation. So it's quite different. It's not part of our accreditation process.
Right. I think I have a question for you also, Marty. It says, which criteria should be given more emphasis for ensuring a quality culture at the university in developing countries?
Yeah, I think what is much more important of everything is assuring the learning objective of the learning of the students. For instance, in our case, in our reaccreditation process, when there is a program has been already accredited and we're going to a second one, we're checking the same standards, but we're focusing just in two. The one is professors, which is the staff that this university has, and the second one is results, which is the learning outcomes of these people. These people really learn, these people really know what they are doing. This is the main focus of ours. So we're focusing in just that.
Right. I have a Professor Tayyib Zarif, who asked, how do we measure the readiness for online education? So maybe Dr. Angela, if you could start on answering us on this. Dr. Angela, can you unmute?
All right. Okay. Thank you for the questions. Though at this moment, actually, I have to admit that the HEIs didn't experience, this kind of the situations, because we still could visit the universities and everything's, all our activities still has been scheduled as normal. But for the online learning, I think this is the issues. No matter what the situations nowadays that the quality assurance agencies face or even has been challenged, we have to think about how to really prepare or even how to come up with the good models, for those online learnings. That my presentations, what I mentioned, nowadays, I think how we're going to review the online programs, most important thing is we have to see how would the online programs really engage the students in this kind of process, not just to, you know, maybe we will review how exactly is that it provides the IT infrastructures, and then how, okay, that the students, how many students actually, okay, has been in the programs. But I think most important thing is how would that the courses been designed, and then in order to engage the students, okay, through the whole process. Because one of the serious concerns for most of the online learning or distance education is about the low student learning outcome, as well as the low completion rate. So I mean, if these two major issues could not be solved in certain way, I don't think that usually, okay, now people will still worry about how that the online programs, or even the courses, the learning online, okay, this mode of the learning or teaching, learning of the teachings could really, okay, assures that the quality of the education. So I think that how to really engage the students, and then how to really the university, in addition to your academics, teaching faculties, how you could support, okay, those teachers with the sufficient technical, human resources, to that he could, when he teach the courses online, and then could really, okay, engage everyone in this process. I think that could be the way that when we want to review the programs, online programs, okay, that criteria should be taken into considerations.
Great, thank you. I am sure readiness for online learning also will include learning resources, Natasha. So how would you look at the readiness? Natasha, yes?
Yes, sorry about that. Okay, so online readiness. So once again, we want to look at the accessibility and the access. We have to make sure that that students and faculty have the access right at point of need. So what we're looking at is where is the link to the online library? Is it located in the LMS? Is it located on the student portal? How do they navigate? And are we including the library and low-stake assignments as well? And what we do with that is introducing a subject or a topic to make sure that our students can do a specific, a simple research paper or something to start with basic searching that leads to, advanced search skills. So it really comes down to access, I believe.
Yes, thank you very much. I have another question from Jalal Ibrahim, who comes from the Riyadh Polytechnic Institute. I think his question is much more about, let's say, pre-COVID, which their polytechnic, they want to get international accreditation. So he is asking, how do we adapt, okay, to get international accreditation? So what do they need to do? Maybe Angela, you could try this.
Yeah, so this also very important issues, because there's still many institutions, they may seek for the international accreditations, but one of the issues is still, it's the international they could still prepare, because the international accreditations, of course, you could still follow those kind of the standards, and then all the that require you to meet, okay, those kind of the expectations in order to pass the international accreditation. I think still, if that the campuses can be operating normally, you still could prepare all the documents like before. But most important thing is still the on-site visit, because the international accreditations, you might have, okay, that the on-site visits from the overseas, and then how you're going to arrange, okay, all the process. Maybe now it's the issues, but nowadays you could see many Q agencies, they try to respond to this, and international accreditor, they may use the virtual on-site visit, and that is, you should, though it's what challenges, but as soon as that you could arrange the whole schedule, and then you could actually, okay, use appropriate IT system into the whole process. I think that still could be done, okay, as you could as could be done, okay, by the QA agency. But now the issue is how you're going to, okay, engage your faculty members as well as your staff or administrators in whole the process, because if your campuses now has been closed, and then how you're going to work on that through the software and through the conferencing, okay, video conferencing to prepare those things, I think the properties will be, okay, the things that you have to solve at this moment. Yeah, but
Right.
for the on-site visit now, maybe it will be postponed, or probably it just still could be done virtually nowadays.
Very good. Okay, I think my advice also is the INQAAHE also has a service for the guidance for good practice.
Yeah,
And it
GGP.
will be good. Yeah, the GGP, and it will be good
Yeah.
also to maybe contact INQAAHE and
Yeah.
and get the and get the institution tested against the guidance for good practice.
Yeah.
You will find this very, very useful to go forward for international accreditation. Okay, next question is from Dr. Hamera, and it says, for practical work assessment, what strategies should be followed under COVID? And that is actually the same as the next question, which is the Jalal Ibrahim. He asked how to transfer from vocational training to online learning. So basically the two questions, they are asking, how do you deal with practical assessments online? Maybe Marty, you could help us out?
Yeah, of course. Well, for the practical assessments online, especially for knowing who is doing what, there are, well, many tools right now. But we have to, for instance, some of the tools has been presented in the previous conference of INQAAHE in Mauritius. There is one presentation about our agency. It's called Tesla, that you can check many of these tools for knowing proctoring, you know, who is who. However, I think that it's important to differentiate two parts. When it's emergency education, so what we are doing right now during the last months, at least in Spain, when it's very, very difficult because the traditional universities try to assure the online evaluation, and it's very difficult to do that, especially if you have 500 students. But this is different to the online institutions that they have their process, and this is their value to knowing how to do that. So when we are evaluating online institutions, we have very specific rules about which are the web, which are the software, the IT, and so on. This is very, very, very important rules. But it's not the same for this period, a specific period where some courses going to be online for 1 month, let's say, for 2 months. So it's not the same standard.
Yes. Okay, anybody else want to comment on this? Just short comments? Okay, so let me move to the next question. This is Nasr Muhammad who asks, how accreditation agencies accept digital online evidences for accreditation processes? Maybe that's yours, Marty, again?
Yeah, well, I think that there is no problem with that. We have all the evidences. They can send us all the evidences by email, and I don't see any problem. In fact, the only thing that sometimes we have problems is with some exams, and then we are waiting that they scan it later on, or we go there with the president of the panel or the secretary of the panel can go just to the faculty or just to the premises just to check some lab or some exams. But it's not usual. The majority of the information is already on the services, so we don't have any problem. I cannot give so much because usually we have everything on the computer.
Yeah, I think the next question is, this is very interesting question. It's for all the panels, so you can all comment on this one. It says basically if universities, they are allowed to provide courses online, and this comes from Tayaji Hota. And it says, but the problem is maybe the university may have all the resources, but the problem here is with the students, because many students, especially in the third world, they may not have Wi-Fi access, they may not have equipment, they may not have a lot of this. So how do we ensure quality and make sure that the students are ready to get online education, not just the universities are ready to get online education?
I'll go ahead and start. So I know that at an institution I worked with, they would definitely make sure that they included laptops and, wireless connection cards or some different ways that they can connect through technology. And I'm not sure if some of the public libraries are opening back up. Here, we're still in that reawakening phase. However, we always do encourage them to go to the public libraries to utilize the internet. Another thing is just allowing a lot of flexibility during this time, extended deadlines, a lot of interaction with the students, and phone calls, and making sure that, basically it comes down to a lot of flexibility from situations that I've been a part of.
Okay, Marty, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, it's quite the same. In our country, at least, there is a big problem of inequity in the high schools. In the high schools level, from the boys and girls from 12 to 16 years, there's a very big problem there of inequity. But not on the university. The people who arrive at the university, we have a report about that. The system is right. So because the universities give computers, give labs, give everything that they need, and it's free for them. So it's people with less resources doesn't have many problems at the university.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's the same in Taiwan. Seems that university actually do not have this kind of the problems, because private, public actually is that the IT systems actually is all in place. So the students actually, though you may not have the laptops, but however, the university, the library, or even all the classrooms, or we have the computer system, everything. So it's not would be the issues for the university. And the high school or even the primary schools also not very, I think that situations as we still do not, those schools still do not have those kind of challenges. But the challenges in the school that in Taiwan face is that the school in the rural area, because in rural area still, some students from the low income family, they cannot really afford that. How they going to, have this kind of access to online learning, this is still a big issue. So in Taiwan in recent years, the governments, they paid a lot of attention to disadvantages, underprivileged groups of the students. And then the governments will have special funding and the subsidies to make sure those students in a rural area, no matter what levels of the schools, and that they will be provided the IT system in order to learning every time and everywhere, and then won't be suffers from because lack of the equipment. So Taiwan probably do not have this kind of the problems, but I'm sure that some developed country, that is a big gap between those who and those who do not have. That is what my presentation I mentioned about inequality. So after the COVID-19, I'm sure maybe these issues should be discussed widely in order to solve the issues that were addressed.
I think this issue, we all understand that it happens, but I think the main question here is how does the Quality Assurance Agency measures this deficiency? I think this is we know that it's there, but how does the Quality Assurance Agency will measure it? How would they know, about it?
Yes, I'm sorry. So
yes, go ahead,
Yes, we have 2 surveys. One is about employment, another one is about university life, let's say, something like that we are launching every 3 years to all the students in Catalonia to know what are they doing, if they are working, they are not working, which is his life as a student. And hopefully, that's what I say, there are no much problems with that. This is one way of measure. If we detect some kind of problem with that, of course, we have to act. This is good. But hopefully for us, there is no problem for that, at least until now.
Yeah, I think we need to put our head together to get an answer for this, because students who don't have access to Wi-Fi and so on, they will not be able to use the survey anyway. So we have to think of something else. The next question is also very interesting. Is we seem to be too much focused on the quality of education, on meeting the learning outcomes, meeting all of this. But the next question focuses on the well-being of students, on, are students really happy? Are they, what is their degree of anxiety about the future? They are all, so many students now, coming September, they don't know whether they will be enrolled in a university or not. Many students, they are not too happy just staying at home and studying. So how does the Quality Assurance Agency look at this, the well-being of students? Any answers or?
In our case, Dr. Najib, it's also the same. We have these 3 surveys that one of them is by phone. So you're right that maybe some people doesn't have Wi-Fi, but one of them is by phone. But it's true that maybe some people doesn't have phone also, but this is quite difficult right now. We have these 3 surveys. One is about satisfaction. It's the students when the day that they finish the program. We have around 20,000 students who respond to this survey every year. Then we have the one about employment 3 years after they program, and another one about the life of the students that I told you before. These inputs all together, they are one of our standards for evaluating the programs. And I can tell you that the satisfaction of the programs is very different, very, very different. You can find programs with very high satisfaction and other ones with very, well, not very low, but not enough satisfaction. So we try to control a lot. On the best way that we know is through surveys.
Right. My next 2 questions, they look at something also very interesting. It says we needed to change the framework slightly to, like you mentioned, Marty, to adapt it, a new adaptation, okay, for the online learning. So it says one is how much adaptation did we do to make the framework, and does it really measure the quality of online learning?
Yes, I think so. We have adapted. Well, keep in mind we have the regular standards. Then we have another standards for online courses, but these are not the ones for the emerging states. See? For the exceptional is another one. It's the 3rd one. It's just for now, but they are not compared with the one for online adaptation. For these online adaptations, we have each one of the standards are analyzed differently than the rest, and we are trying, at least it is our objective, that the objective of these standards is that they measure exactly the same learning outcomes that the universities, traditional universities. I think that we get it, but in our case, at least in Catalonia, there is one online university. In fact, it's the first online university in Europe, totally online, and it's very prestigious. So we don't have this problem that sometimes the online is not the same that the traditional and so on. In our case, we don't have this problem, so we can work on that. We are lucky.
Maybe I have the next, I'll skip this question, I'll come back to it. Okay, it's about recognition of degrees. I'll come back to it later. But let me move on to the other question. How do we ensure that the integrity of a student assessment? This question has been asked by Nasser Mohammed. How to ensure that there is, the authenticity of students' work?
Probably because this is also the issues, okay, in many Asian countries, and how could really assure, to realize how much that the student really learn. So far, means a lot of the software actually could be applied to could be applied and then could be used to really check if those like assignment, okay, is really what a paper has really been done by the students. So before, like it means in Taiwan or even in China, okay, some universities before that the students, okay, finalize their thesis or even the paper they wrote, and then the university will require, okay, all the papers supposed to be checked, okay, before, okay, let me go into the auto defense committee. So I think now probably we could rely on the technology to really, okay, help the teachers to make sure that, okay, no plagiarisms, no cheatings, okay, and then the students could really, they've done the works by themselves, and then committed to, you know, start the learning whole process. So now that could be solved for this issue. But though the integrity is still very important, because through the university educations, and then through, okay, some hidden curriculum, it means the students should be educated that integrity is still, okay, it's the values of the educations, and then how you clearly, you know, though that the performance be value high is very important, but however, okay, in a certain way we should also obey the academic, okay, ethics. Yeah.
Yes, I have a Francisco Montes asks, which is how seriously can we really take the courses that are the programs that are accredited, you know, at this point of time, where through online interviews and so on. How comprehensive is this?
Sorry, I don't understand exactly the question.
Yeah, it means what he's casting a bit of doubt on accreditation, while, you know, using physical visit versus accreditation having an online visit. So he said, how serious is it, and how much difference between the two?
I think that I not honestly think that it's zero difference. It's exactly the same. Exactly the same. Keep in mind that we are just visiting premises, faculties that we have been there before. So this is important. So it's something that we really know that exists. And programs that, well, I don't see any difference at all. We are giving the same accreditation. I am sure 100% that it is totally safe. To tell you, this is maybe because Catalonia is a small country and we know everyone, and we can know all the deans, and it's from, you know, from the States, you know, or from Russia. But that's for the dimension I'm talking about. So
I think, Marty, the key part is maybe you are not accrediting in new universities at all. It's only dealing with the existing ones, the one that you know. I think that's what makes it credible.
Yeah. And we are accrediting, keep in mind, we're accrediting programs one by one. So programs that many of them we have already accredited before, or we have accredited a very similar program in the same university. So this is
right. Now the third question, the next question is also very important, because we looked at the questions regarding, which is the well-being. Now, this question is much more about the, you know, how students, they benefit from extracurricular activities at universities. So, and to make the learning holistic is not only learning your subject, but also, you know, learning with others, as well as learning this extracurricular skills. So how do we compensate for them within this and online learning?
Well, in Spain, this is not really well solved, because the activities outside university, I think it's only what can be 1% of the total curriculum. It's very low, and the participation of the students, I think, it has to increase. It's not like many other campuses on the world that people are participating a lot and so on. I think that we have a challenge here to improve. People just take the curriculum and finish the. We have, this is a challenge for the Spanish universities in general.
So in Taiwan, actually, okay, for general speaking, those who take the online programs or online courses, I mean, many of them actually are adult students. So they are working students and something. So probably extracurriculars probably are not, okay, their major the goal, okay, in taking the courses. So that is the issues, because for those online courses, because they're all through the computer, okay, through these platforms to learn. So this is very challenging or very difficult for the students. You still require them, but you may, for the teachers probably, you could require them to attending, okay, some conferences or some, okay, activity, okay, after that the course. but still that is not a requirement for all the online courses. I mean, for TED Taiwan, for example. Yeah.
Yes. The next two questions, they revolve around the same issue. It's basically, how can we judge the, the laboratory work or the skills or the research skill of students when it's done online? For instance, this is a question from Samarin, who is at the Faculty of Pharmacy at Jarrah University, basically say there is a lot of lab work to be done. So how do they compensate for it?
Yeah, in our case, for example, in nursing, that's one of the biggest problems, that people have to get in Europe 2,300 hours outside of the university in practices. Okay, so the first option is trying to do these practices. If it's not possible, all of them, then we allow to go to other hospitals or other services that are not included on the regular hospitals that belong to the network of the regular network. Okay, this is the second option. If it's not possible, then there's a third option that you can work in whatever, for instance, in COVID emergencies, although it's not exactly the same that you have to work. If it's not possible, then there is that's the simulation. We have we have a very strong in the center of Catalonia. There is important. Well, there's one place for simulation for nursing, and at the last option, no more. Then you have to do it the same hours, but in a different way. So that means seminars, teaching. For example, interviewing people who have been working on that. So we have to look for some alternative. We expect not to arrive to the last option, to tell you the truth.
Right. The question for you, Natasha, is digital libraries are very informative. Okay, but the access is limited. Okay, is it possible to open the access for libraries during the critical condition COVID-19?
I wish I could answer that question. I unfortunately don't have the authority to answer that across the globe.
Yes, unfortunately, you have to subscribe to them. Without subscription, you will not be able to get access to them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so next one is to do with the teaching side. And I think the question before that also is about recognition of online degrees. They go together, basically. I think only up to 2 months, 4 months ago, many authorities, they never recognized online degrees. And then suddenly they are telling everybody to do online degrees. So, what happened in between? And how will that impact the recognition of online degrees?
Sorry, I cannot respond because in our case, the online degrees, it's only from one university. It's Open University in Catalonia. All of them, they are recognized, and it's very important for us. They are recognized with the same level, with the same capacities that the rest. This is very, very important for all of us. So we don't have this problem right now to having other online programs.
But if a student in Catalonia take an online degree with a university in the US, will it still be recognized in Catalonia?
I don't know. I cannot respond. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Sorry, because it depends on the federal government or the central government. I'm not sure about.
For my understanding, I think this issue is very complicated for the different system and the different, government's regulations, regulatory, system. I think they might all, apply the different, methods or even a model. TED Taiwan, for example, actually is our government's would not recognize the 4 online degrees that the students receive overseas. Okay, still insist that some proportions of the courses that should be taken in class. So it really depends on country by country. But now, I mean, due to the COVID-19, maybe this is the good moment for the government. Sometimes probably could be done only by the quality assurance agency. Sometimes this is the government, that the authority to decide, what to change the policy. So I think that's also good, very good opportunities for the QA agency, university, as well as the governments. Now there's times for us to work together to see those issues. I mean, it's all addressed by, our audience today, probably we can be solved by one agency or one unit, and then really need a cooperation. So even the international quality assurance network, we could also contribute, our experiences and then how to promote some issues. Sometimes probably they cannot be accepted in the past, but now, like the online learning, mode assessment and the learning outcome, those things. So how they could be, I mean, at this moment, it's really the times we have to think it over very, very seriously, and then really come up with the good solutions, for the university. I mean, so also the QA, sometimes we could have certain kinds of the good framework for those to keep moving on, and then in order to respond to the demands of the universities. Yeah.
Okay. My next question comes from Jessica Dunn, which she says, what are your specific recommendations for counterbalancing rigor and flexibility in the external review process in this period of change, particularly from the perspective of online delivery and assessment? Any comments from anyone?
Yes.
So what will be your specific recommendation?
Yes, my specific recommendations, it's gonna be basic. Just one recommendation is just to work exactly as it was a general program in a traditional way. So that's what we're trying. We're trying to, our objective is to investigate, to research if these students have achieved their learning objective. That's all. So we have to try to do it as a regular one. So what are we doing in our case? For example, taking the exams, taking some exams, asking the problems of the students with the same students with the same exam. This is our goal. And if we have this focus, we realize that basically the rest is just a technical issue. It doesn't matter so much. I think it's more easy than we can expect.
Yes, I have the next question, which I don't think we can answer here. Asking about which online communication platform would we recommend most. I don't think we should do this in here. So I apologize for not being able to answer this question. And the next question is for this is for you, Natasha. My question is going to the public library, Cannot be the solution to practice the social distancing in the pandemic, How to ensure that universities provide these tools to the students?
Once again, like we discussed, it's about online resources, if we can have access to that. But also practicing social distancing, we can do that in some of the public areas as well. We can practice that. But having licensed content or even utilizing the internet, if once again we have the capability to do so, if you can't purchase that, a lot of public libraries do have online resources and databases to use. And also on the internet, there's Google Scholar. And then a lot of publishers are actually offering free trials to their resources as well during this time.
Okay, the next question is for you, Marty. It says, the changes in accreditation standards that you have created, which I don't think you made the changes in accreditation, you made adaptation of the accreditation standards. It says, do you consider that focusing on the curriculum, the teaching staff, the changes in the infrastructure, or the result of the program, with the vision of the future? What do you think the main things that you need to focus on?
I think clearly the results of the program, clearly. We have a new tool, I think this is interesting, that it's already, well, we're just finishing the tool, let's say. that during the last years, we have all the data from all the universities in Catalonia, from everything, let's say all the surveys that we have, plus all the indicators about the students, you know, how many passed the course, how many didn't pass, blah, and so on. And then this new tool, we are able to compare each program with the programs from the rest of the university similar to your program. So you are able to compare history with the rest of history of the system. So I think that this is one of the ways that we have to go to trying to get to benchmarking against the programs that they are quite similar to your program, to see if your employability, if your learning outcomes, everything are good. My focus, so as responding to your question, is always learning outcomes, always, and now plus comparing with benchmarking with the rest of the programs quite similar to you.
Yeah, there is another question for you, Marty. Here it says, when you were doing your when you were doing your work, your quality assurance, did you actually observe any online classes?
No, this is not our case. No.
So and normally, would you observe face-to-face classes? No, you wouldn't do that. Okay, so that's not there. Okay. The next question is priority. Yeah.
Sorry, I am sorry, because I think that it's a good practice to do that. I think that we have to do it, but we have not enough resources to do it right now. I hope in the future we can do it.
Yes, so, next question is for you, Natasha. It says proprietary resources are carefully provided to learners by their libraries. Okay, when TL, okay, when online, okay, many owners of these resources were wary that unlicensed users may be accessing their resources, okay, which made access difficult for legitimate users. Okay. I'm not sure what the question is, so what's your comment?
I can make comment. So I think they're saying that publishers are worried about unlicensed access. So that's why more advanced systems like we discussed about single sign-on, LTI, of course, we need to make sure we're careful with username and password, and posting anything on the public or open web is available. So we have to make sure that it's integrated into the systems so we can have that bypass of authentication. And so people aren't taking that information or utilizing those resources that have already been published by the institution, stealing them, so to speak.
Right. Okay, so I have two more questions, okay, and then we'll finish, okay. It says the accreditation will be given for if quality assessment is done. How online assessment will be equivalent to physical assessment or written engineering exams? So when we are doing engineering, when we are doing nursing, when we are doing all these practical subjects, okay, how are we going to say they are both the same?
Well, in our case, we don't. What I mean is that online programs, we don't have online programs of engineering and nursing. We doesn't allow that, because our agency have to evaluate this, and this is impossible. Or for teaching, there are no, or medicine, there are no online programs for that. What we have, there are programs right now. They are physical programs that during this period, that maybe is going to be 1 year, we have to make some online courses inside this program, but the program is still the same. So, well, in fact, when we analyze one program, these people who will be studying during the COVID, pre-COVID, and post-COVID will analyze the 4 years that they have studied, not just the 5 months that they cannot go to school or they have to do it online. So I think that we have to ensure that during these 4 years or 5 years, they have learned the same that the rest. Because we don't have online programs in nursing, for instance, doesn't exist. Well, we doesn't allow it.
Right. I think the final question is really good because it's very reflective. It says maybe 4, 5 years, 10 years from now, how will we view these students who graduated during the COVID era? How are we going to look at them? Are we going to look at them as the one that, you know, got it easy, passed through? Will they be different? How do you think we look at it?
Yeah, so this is very good questions, and for my personal viewpoints, I kind of worry. Okay, so how would the employers would look at the graduate at this moment, and maybe they will worry about how much they really learn, and then their qualifications to really achieve the standards that we expect them to have, or even their competencies you really has been equipped well. So those would be the issues. I think that the employers probably might really are concerned about that. So that so far I do not think I have any answers for these questions. But for if the students and the graduates they're going to get your degree this year, I think they may though the campuses are closed, but you still could use the online resources to compensate those probably you don't think that you could learn from the school at this moment, because that lot of the learning mode and then the all changed. So I mean for it means that the cohort of the graduate that are going to graduate from this year, I think they should have this kind of the consciousness that they should in addition now at this particular moment they have to find the other online resources to make them still be more competitive in the job market, because in the future they still have to as soon as that after the COVID-19, and then they still need to compete with the other a cohort of the graduate. But when the employers probably they may worry the whole year, almost the whole year, how much they really learn, and then if they cannot really demonstrate, that won't affect you. I still kind of worry. So my suggestion is, though, as a teacher, I think some of the teachers, we have to advise the students. Though the campus is closed, but doesn't mean that your learning should be suspended. And then keep moving on and keep learning, and because the future, the career, still on your own hand. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Angela. Thank you very much, everybody. I really enjoyed this webinar. I started listening to all the three of you, and then what made it really interesting is the difference, is the variety of questions that we got from everyone. I think at this point, I would ask if we can have a poll to see how much our participants have enjoyed this poll today. Of course, you can answer more than one. You don't need to answer just one of them. You can have more than one. These are great answers. Perhaps, Rob, you can help us if we need to move on to the second one. We are still getting more responses. Thank you very much. I'm glad that I see that we have managed to hit the right nerve and become, and present something that is very relevant to your needs and adds value to the quality dialogue. Thank you. Can we look at the question 2 now, or? Oh, this is also good. Yes. Thank you very much, everybody, for answering this poll. Okay, I just before we end, please let me remind you again of. I'll just share something with you here. Let me remind you again of our INQAAHE biannual forum. So this is going to be very, very interesting forum. It was supposed to be face-to-face, and then it is changed to be on a webinar form. So please don't forget our date together. It's from September 21st to September 24th, we are going to have the workshops. And then September 28th to October 1st, we are going to have the forum. And then there will be General Assembly and Regional Networking meeting on October 12th. So please keep this date, and let's hope that we see you there. Right. So yeah, let me thank all of our participants and all of our presenters for this really, really interesting forum. I also want to thank INQAAHE board and all members of their valuable and all their members for their valuable contribution to INQAAHE. As a president of INQAAHE, Dr. Susanna is leading a number of initiatives to enhance the INQAAHE services. I express gratitude to Natasha, Dr. Angela, and Dr. Marty for sharing their valuable insight from their rich experiences. I really appreciate also their candid answers to the questions that have come about. Thank you very much. I'm also thankful to all of those who have been involved in the organization of the webinar. I will appreciate if you could post any suggestions in the chat box for our future webinars. We are going to hold more because this is what you wanted. So please let us know what you want, and we'll try to bring on the right speakers and the right topics for you. Okay, so that INQAAHE can serve you better. Thank you once again for being such wonderful audience. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.